Meeting is called to order at 7 p.m. If I guess I do roll call. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so Barbie Appowitz,
She's Kamir.
Janine Jackson,
Present.
Gloria Garcia, Cristina Delgadillo,
Here.
Shirley Compton, and Mario Alarcón. All right, we have quorum. So the first item on the agenda is public input. Do we have anyone for public input today? Okay, I don't think so. So we'll move over to our report section of our agenda. The first item on the reports is the Santa Monica Police Department. We're going to have Daniel Melendez, our newest neighborhood resource officer, and Halima Barreto, our crime prevention coordinator, give us an update. And welcome, Officer Melendez.
Excuse me, Liz, before we begin, can we ask everyone to make sure that they're muted?
Yes, if you can please mute yourself if you're not speaking, and I will do the same.
Hi, thank you for having me. Actually, I'll turn it over to Halima, and she'll go over some numbers.
Thanks, Danny. Hi, everybody. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of you. I think the last time we had met and actually in a VAT meeting was in person before the pandemic, so I'm excited to be here. I looked at numbers from the last 3 months just to give you kind of an overall view of what's been going on. In this area specifically surrounding Virginia Avenue Park, there wasn't a whole lot, but what I did see more of was vehicle burglaries and different types of larceny. So in the other type of larceny, there's it could be larceny from a building or from a vehicle, but these other ones are usually underground garages or bike thefts, which have been a problem throughout the city. We've been noticing a lot of that happening, regardless of the location. It's just kind of happening throughout the city. But the vehicle burglaries, I did see 4 of those in the last 3 months, and they were in the streets and 1 in the parking lot, I believe, just around the park. So just a reminder to make sure that you're looking around to make sure you're not leaving any valuables in your vehicle, that you're locking the car behind you. And whenever possible, park it in a well-lit area, an area that you are able to have some sort of visibility in. And a lot of vehicle burglaries, one of the main ways that they're accessing them is just that the car was simply unlocked. And the other way is when they're noticing that there's some sort of item that could seem valuable. So if there's a bag in there, anything that might seem like it's worth getting into that vehicle, then now we'll have a window smash and they're accessing the car. So something just to keep in mind. And then in general throughout the city, I didn't see any actually in this area, but just so that we are aware and we're talking about what we've been seeing is the catalytic converter thefts. So we've been seeing a spike in this region-wide, statewide. And the main reason for that is because the catalytic converters contain precious metals. And these precious metals, whenever they start increasing in value, you start seeing higher amounts of these thefts. Priuses have been targeted, I think, the most and more than any other cars. We've seen it in CRVs, RAV4s, cars that sit up high. So that is something wherever you are parking your vehicle to be mindful of. We have been partnering with some of the mechanic shops throughout the city. And they're actually offering discounts to install cages on your catalytic converter to help prevent the converters from being stolen. If you mention the police department, they're giving a discount for the installation. We have a flyer that went out on social media, but I can also send it to Liz or whoever would want that so they can send it to the rest of you. So that's one of the things that we've been working on. We're also having an etch and catch. I don't know if there's still spots available as it's coming up next week. It was put on our social media as well. The etch and catch is basically, and this is something you can also do on your own, that you etch the license plate number onto the catalytic converter. The idea behind this is that it makes it difficult for them to resell it, so it might seem less attractive to steal that converter when they're under the vehicle. And also, if we're able to make an arrest, then it makes it easier for police to know who to return it to. We actually did have a successful arrest about 2 weeks ago, and the individuals were found with 3 catalytic converters in their car. And one of the converters was able to be returned to their owner. So, That's all I have. So do you have any questions?
Anyone have any questions? I notice you also have Officer Medina here as well, so perhaps maybe they can get the floor and introduce themselves to our board members.
Oh, yes. Hi, Jessica.
Hi guys, thank you for having me. So I'm not assigned to beat 3, but because I was born and raised in the Pico neighborhood, and my mom actually lives still in the Pico neighborhood, I don't live that far from there, but I still live in the city. But I am a newly selected NRO. And I have 2 daughters who are in the school district, one at Edison, one at John Adams. I'm hoping that they go back to school. I just saw an email come out. I'm like crossing my fingers. So yeah, I'm here if you need me. I can provide my email if you guys have any questions. I'm hoping to get to know you guys all and maybe meet someday in person. And I'm here as a resource for you guys. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jessica. And Danny?
Hi, everyone. Again, thank you for having me. I'm just excited to be here. Just like Jessica said, we're newly selected neighborhood resource officers. And there's a lot of ties I have to the Pico neighborhood as well as Virginia Park. Hopefully we can get some time to meet in person, like Jessica said, and I'll let you guys know my story then. Don't want to take too much time out of your agenda, but just appreciative for you all that are here, including my partners. We're just trying to move forward with everybody, make this beautiful city just continue to progress and make new relationships so that we can build a strong relationship amongst everyone, not just the PD or just the Virginia Avenue Park, but just everyone in general in the city of Santa Monica. So thank you for having me again.
Great. Well, welcome to you both. I'm glad you were both able to come and attend our first virtual Virginia Avenue Park Advisory Board meeting. So we really are excited to have you on board and for us to be able to work collaboratively in the future along with Halima. Any questions for them before we move on to the next report? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Halima. Thank you, Danny. And thank you, Jessica, for being present. You are more than welcome to stay if you'd like to hear updates on what's been going on at the park. But you also are free to exit if you'd like. So thank you. Moving on to our next agenda item is the Pico Branch Library. We have a report from Cecilia Tovar, the principal librarian, and Robert Graves, librarian 3 from the branch manager. And I also see that we have Sylvia as well. So you all have the floor.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Cecilia Tovar, and I also have my daughter in Edison, Jessica. Nice to meet you. But I'm going to let Sylvia to give the formal introduction to Robert Graves. Robert Graves right now it's helping us oversee the curbside and of the services that we have at the Pico branch in Montana. So I'm just going to go ahead and have Sylvia to introduce him and also for her to give you a little bit of an update. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's been a long time, so I'm very happy to see everyone. Liz, Barbie, Janine, Gloria, so happy to see you. I just wanted to give you an update, like Cecilia said. Back in November, I was given the opportunity to work as interim youth and family services coordinator at the main library. And so beginning December, that's where I've been. Since December, that's where I've been. I've been at the main library, working and focusing my work on the youth services department. And that is working and focusing for the overall programs of the library for all the branches and main library. And because I was gonna be at Main, Robert was asked to be interim for my position. So I wanted to be here today to let you know that Robert Graves is currently overseeing managing Pico branch and as well as Montana branch. And so moving forward, he's going to be joining your meetings to give you updates on the library. And if I have additional ones that I want to share, I'll come by too. But the work that I've been doing, or what I've been doing, also is in connection to Virginia Avenue Park. I work with youth, and I will continue working with for the youth, for the community. And so everything that I've been doing connects with that. And I wanted to just give you an update on the programs or services that we currently are giving at the library. I'll have Robert share with us on curbside hours, and I'll focus on programming for the youth right now. Coming up this Saturday, we have Storypalooza, which is a program that celebrates Read Across America. And we will have a show, a balloon show, starting at 11 a.m. Right now, in all of our curbside, we have kits available, activity kits available that contain a free book for kids to come. They can come and pick one up. And on Saturday, they can join a video to work on the activity together. So, we also we'll be giving free books on Saturday for all those kids that can come by to curbside. Every month we are giving away activity kits. They're called Take and Make kits. So the first Monday of the month we have a kit. In the middle of the month we have another kit that is sponsored by Caton Children's Museum. The kits, our activity kits, are theme kits, activities that children can learn from. We've had gardening kits where children take a whole kit and learn how to do their own spice gardening, or they've been sculpting, they've been doing clay projects. So make sure that if you have children, or if you know families with children, please encourage them to stop by Pico. They will have those kits available for them. We initiated in the month of February a service called Dial a Story, and children can dial a phone number and listen to stories 24/7. We began our service with English and Spanish stories. And this month, today, as of today, we have included Mandarin stories. It's been a very successful program. Today, they told us that in 26 days that we've been in service with that, we received 422 calls. So that means we're averaging about 19 calls a day of children calling to listen to stories. They're very fun. It's something that schools and preschools can use for the students to or teachers to dial that number and listen to those stories. Stories are read by our children's librarians. And so we will continue to add jokes and riddles and just different types of reading formats to that service. I'm hoping to eventually add an Amharic stories for Ethiopian families. We will begin in March 15th. We will begin checking out backpacks. They're called Reading to Go backpacks, which come with 5 books, a DVD, and a toy or an activity. And this is to encourage parents or caregivers to read to their children, interact, and play with them. So those are backpacks that contain all these activities. They're ready to go. And families will be able to check those 3 backpacks per library card, and they can keep it for 3 weeks. So that's going to begin on March 15th. We have backpacks or kits in Spanish, Amharic, and English. So again, we're trying to serve our different community members. And then lastly, we have for children, we have building blocks for kindergarten that it's a challenge that we have on a platform that's called Beanstack. And for reading or doing certain activities in that challenge, children get to enter into drawings to get a bag of books. So we're working a lot, even though our libraries are closed to the public. I just wanted to bring all these services out to you and let you know that, yes, our buildings are closed. People are not coming into the library, but we still have curbside, and we're still doing virtual programming, and we're doing a lot of different services through curbside where you can just come by and pick up all these services. So I'll let Robert share what we are doing with the adult services and curbside hours, because we are adding hours to Wednesday nights. So I'll let him talk a little bit more about that.
Hey everybody, if you've never met me before, I do see some familiar faces, but that I've seen through the glass at our curbside checkout. I'm Robert Graves. You also may know me. I was the former manager of the Fairview branch, which unfortunately is closed for the moment, but we'll hopefully get it back up and running sometime in the near-term future. But right now I'm at Pico and Montana, and we're doing curbside hours. Curbside hours are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday at Pico Branch and Main Library, and the first Saturday of every month. And then at the Montana branch, we have curbside hours Monday and Wednesday. And beginning on March 17th, we're going to switch our Wednesday hours to 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we're going to respond to a few folks.
Wait, no. Let me just clarify the Wednesday, Robert. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The curbside hours are from 1 to 7 p.m. We're not going to have curbside in the morning. Okay. However, right. The phone shifts and reference email will still happen at 10:04. Right.
Sorry about that.
We're just shifting down the hours.
Right. So the 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Window will shift to 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. and that's in response to a lot of folks who've been, telling us they can't get to us before 4 o'clock. They have work or whatever. So that's hopefully going to help folks a lot, and that will be every Wednesday beginning March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day. So we'll hopefully advertise that, follow the leprechaun across the rainbow and you finally got what you wanted, a little bit more hours at the library. For our adult programming, we don't have a lot of adult programs at the moment. Most of our adult programming is tied to our book groups. Karen Reitz, who is the manager of our Ocean Park branch, is now kind of stationed out of Main Library, is kind of overseeing the online book groups. But we have had some online author discussions, and we're looking at kind of expanding that and some other kind of programming opportunities that we can put together virtually until we can actually get back into a room together and do what we normally do as well as we do. So hopefully that's coming soon. But in the meantime, you can definitely stop by the Pico branch and meet me. We're there weekdays, Monday through Friday, and 10 a.m. to 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So, and then Wednesday, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. So.
And I also want to remind you that we still have our citizenship classes and our ESL classes for those that are interested in taking those. Citizenship classes are still on Mondays from 12 to 2:30 p.m. And ESL classes, we have them on Fridays, Saturdays, and Mondays. So they're different levels, low level and high level. So those are still available for our patrons. And we will continue to, we just, we were able to partner or help out a little bit with Greens Festival and still donating a few books for their festival. And we will be still working, I will be working still with Carla on the arts and literacy.
Okay, great. Celia, did you want to add something, or?
I just wanted to say that no matter what, I know that many of you probably are asking what happened to the library and with all the cuts that we, unfortunately, we went through. We're still, a small team, but mighty team. We're still supporting each other. You will see me, you will see Robert, you will see Sylvia in different community meetings. I will still be supporting Carla and Virginia Avenue Park as many, in many ways I can. You'll see me, participating in other meetings, but, obviously Sylvia will be still very involved with the youth services coordination for all the, branches, but definitely her focus is to still be helping and collaborating with Virginia Avenue Park. So if you have any questions or anything, just please don't hesitate to email any of us. Like I said, we no longer are going to be a team just for PICO or a team just for the main library. We are just one team, and we're kind of rotating and going at different, places and community meetings because we just don't have the same staff that we used to, and we just need to support and continue supporting the community. So I hope that if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to just email me or invite us to any of your meetings that you have. Okay.
Right. And I thought of one other thing. We do have, like I said, Saturday hours the first Saturday of every month, but we've had a pretty low turnout. So if you see people around and you want to share the news, let them know that first Saturday we are open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're kind of hidden behind the farmers market, which is kind of fenced in so that they can control the flow. So I think a lot of folks don't see us back there, but we are there on the first Saturday. So if you can help us get the word out, please do share it with everybody.
Great, thank you, Robert. That's definitely a good point. Board members, do you have any questions for Sylvia, Robert, or Cecilia? No? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate all of the work that you all are doing. And yes, it definitely was felt as far as, the cuts, but I'm glad that there's a lot of programming for children and families during this time. I think the resources you all are providing are extremely helpful, and I'm looking forward to some of these other events as well as the Reading to Go, and the Dallas story sounds amazing, and I'm so glad it's being used. So thank you so much to all of you and your staff for the work that you all are doing. And you, again, same thing, you're welcome to stay as we continue to get updates on the park, since this is our first virtual meeting after not seeing each other for close to a year. The next reports we have is through the park, Virginia Avenue Park. We have Carla and the newest program supervisor at the park, Eric Johnson. You all have the floor.
Hey everybody, so nice to see you. Yes, it has been nearly a year since we've all been together, and it is really nice to see you. A lot of changes have occurred. We did have a lot of staff changes at the park, and so I'll let Eric introduce you to some of the new staff. People did move around, but many of us are still here. Lupe, myself, Michael Jackson, and then some of the other staff are in other locations. During the pandemic, we have really been focusing on how to support the community, and we have been able, through the collaboration with the Economic Recovery Task Force and the Emergency Office, to have a food pantry, which many of you are aware of, because I know I do inform you of all these things in emails. So we've been doing the pantry. We've also assisted with rental assistance at the park. And then we have also been working on a number of other economic recovery projects, which include the kitchen at Virginia Avenue Park. We've been working on that and turn it into a commercial kitchen that can then become an incubator space for our residents, which has been something that many of our participants here on this call have been a part of advocating for that. Another thing I wanted to mention to you is that we have launched, started last week, a bi-weekly jobs email list that'll be going out. And so please keep an eye out for that. You're on that list. But I do want you to, if you didn't receive the last one, please let me know. I'll get you signed up for it. And we will be pushing out different local jobs. Really, the whole idea of the jobs email list is to try and identify local businesses that are looking for workers and trying to match them with local staff. It'll also feature the employment service agencies that we work with in the city, JVS, Chrysalis, and HTA, as well as highlighting the many, many services that the library has for job seekers. So I'll put in that's not working. I'll email to you the information about our employment resources webpage. I know you've received those, but I'll still send it out again. So as Sylvia mentioned, we did just do Greens Festival on Saturday. We haven't stopped doing events, have we? So we did Posada, we did Day of the Dead, and really thank you to everybody who has been on this call that's helped make those events happen. It's really because of you that we're able to do it. So we did Greens Festival. The next one that's coming up, I bet Carmen's going to talk about, so I won't mention it so that she can speak on it. And then, as Sylvia said, we're working on Arts and Literacy, which is going to be on May 1st from 10 until 12 noon. After that, we do have Juneteenth coming on June 19th. Time still yet to be determined. These are all currently all planned as virtual events. Oh, and Andrina might also be speaking about Our Girls Rock, which also is going to be happening sometime in March. So I just wanted to give you those brief highlights. I'm going to let Eric talk to you about what he's been doing and tell you a little bit about the staff that we have. And just, I do want to say it's been really great to have Eric join our team. He's a very seasoned supervisor who started at Crest and then was at Community Recreation. And so we're glad to have him with us. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Eric.
Thank you very much, Carla. Thank you I won't get into my background because this is now my 23rd year here. We could be talking for a little while of all my time here. So I see a lot of familiar faces. Some I've worked with, some I've coached, some I've done a little bit of everything. So it's good to see all of you in person. Hopefully when the park is open, I'll get to see more of you all. Like Carla mentioned, like I said, I think most of the board members received a kind of a program report, to my understanding, to kind of went over some of the different things that we've been doing. So I'm not going to go verbatim into everything. Obviously, with the pandemic, we got hit kind of hard. Obviously, it's been roughly almost coming up on a year now that we've been kind of out of school, out of programming for a while for a lot of these kids. So we've been providing a lot of different things for them. So obviously, they did an online component primarily from March until June, July. Obviously, like Carla mentioned, a lot of us got moved around. A lot of us did some different things, and we have a whole new staff here for our programming. So we do have Arthur Guzman, who is the program coordinator here. He came from the Police Activities League. Two of our specialists are Dolores Romo and Erica Turner-Rogers. They both came from the CREST program. And we still have some of our as-needed staff, which are Francis Rodriguez, who was here for Virginia Avenue Park, and also David Solis. So we do have also someone that worked in CREST and Community Recreation, Lewis Jones, who moved over to our unit. So obviously with our elementary and middle school programming, obviously with all the different CDC guidelines, we were very limited on the amount of kids that we can serve here. So, and also limited by kind of budget restrictions and everything else, because everybody took a hit here. Like Cecilia mentioned, the library took a big hit. We took a hit too as well. So we were limited to roughly 3 pods, which was 12 kids in a pod. So we obviously, they couldn't be mixed together. We had to put families together. So the age differences were like, if they had a 12-year-old, then the 12-year-old had to be with a 6-year-old. So we had to keep like families together no commingling. So it was a little tough when we first got into it because these kids, when they came into programming, they were just excited to be around people. So obviously they're reinforcing the 6-foot distance. Hey, you got to wear your mask. No, you can't they were just super excited. So, I mean, they were just being kids. You can't blame them. So from during that time, we did summer programming from July until August. We were about 12:30 to 5. We did various different activities for them. We did also have the summer lunch program that we worked with the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District that provided free lunch to the community throughout the summer, which was great, not just for our kids, but for everyone in the community. So they got to do that. And also the Santa Monica Public Library came out and did some kits and some other stuff during the lunch program a few different times, so which was great. Thank you to Sylvia and Lenore as well for making all that happen. And Cecilia, thank you. So like I said, it gave the kids another outlet for some different things, and also the kids in the community with book packets and everything else. So summer went pretty well, obviously, as being 36 kids enrolled. Summer was fun and get these kids reacclimated to building their social skills and learning a lot of different things. Currently, obviously, we went to school year programming. We couldn't really take on any additional spots, so we were still roughly at 36. So a lot of those kids were floated over from the summer, and if we had any additional spots, we did take those kids on. So like I said, we're still currently enrolled at 36. With new CDC guidelines, they did allow pods to go up to 14, so we'll be adding 6 additional kids, so we'll be up to 42. Obviously, to go along with that, those kids that weren't able to come in person, we created more of a virtual component that not only was academic assistance, it also included our artists in residence, which were from art to painting, to also fitness and everything else, which led to over 50 kids enrolled in that. So we had kids logging in from home to do the fitness, the art, the painting, and we just allowed them time to pick up kits here at the office. So they would just email us, we sent it out. Kids would come in and pick up kits, which would be great. So we'd try to give them 2 or 3 weeks worth of stuff from paint to glue to scissors. So they were able to use that. So the community really enjoyed that. So we were able to get those kids at home who weren't able to get in, and also maybe didn't feel comfortable coming in person. And we understand that. Cases were really bad in November, December, January. So they took a hit on enrollment, and a lot of things kind of shut down for a little bit. So so giving that virtual option was awesome for these kids, and we kind of created a social hour is what we called it, where kids got to interact with each other. Staff led some games, some other stuff, some fitness. We tried to keep the kids as active as possible, which was great. And they were staying logged in until 7 p.m., which our program closed. So we were super excited about that and all the different things that we were able to do. We had a lot of collaborations, a couple obviously with Santa Monica Public Library. We did have the Caton's Children Museum. They do monthly activities with us, which is great. I think Sylvia mentioned some of the things that happened, but they also collaborate with us, which is great. We did have a collaboration, or currently on a collaboration with Morgan Wixon Theater, which is providing intro to theater to some of our youth, which is great. The positive with this is that after post-pandemic, whenever that happens, they're interested in having the kids come to the theater to continue doing that at no cost. So that's a collaboration that we're building on the future, which is great. We also had one for our middle school programs, which was Youthful Savings, My Own Business Challenge, which allowed kids to kind of create an e-marketplace, create a product, and they were able to sell it online across the country. They were in classes with kids from the East Coast, so they were interacting with all that. So that was an amazing program, which was met with great success. The kids also got a $50 gift card, which they were pretty happy about as well. But they were able to sell products and be able to do that. And we were able to take up to, I think, 6 kids, but we had more kids interested, so they were able to take up to 10, which was great. So the kids definitely enjoyed that. So that's a collaboration we'll be looking to build on for the future here at our program. And a couple new things that we're planning on doing is obviously the high school kids have been kind of neglected a little bit. That's one of our programs that got cut pretty hard here at Virginia Avenue Park. So we're trying to slowly bring them back. So we're creating an ultimate fitness class that will be starting for high school kids just only on Tuesdays. That'll be virtually and in person, that'll start the week of March 8th. So we're looking at March 9th that will start. And then we have a tentative start date to be able to open up the sound room, which a lot of the kids are interested in, and the teen center. Around April or May, we'll be able to do it by appointment only, though, obviously with CDC guidelines, to be able to get kids musically involved and use the sound room and everything else with one of our artists in residence, Ryan, which would be great. So we're kind of tentatively set for that. We haven't publicized that yet because we're waiting to see and get our city approval for that. And also, obviously, we're gearing up for spring break camp, which we are hoping to be able to do some walking trips for our kids. And obviously gearing up for summer and I think summer will be back to full swing, hopefully, and try to provide some social things and obviously field trips, and obviously try to help bridge the academic gap as they get into probably showing up every day in the fall. So that's some of the things that we have going on. So I can leave my email, or Carla will send it to you if you have any questions or feedback. We can get kids pointed in the right direction. We just want to get youth involved. Obviously, with our new staff, it was a transition to not really getting to meet you all, and then when we get to everybody being able to come in person, it's another transition where we get to meet and build those relationships that the prior staff have built here before. So we have a lot of experience here, and we're excited to be able to meet you all in person so you can see some of the great things that we do here, and you can build that trust with us. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eric, for all that, the detailed report on all of what you all have been doing since the pandemic. Definitely sounds like you all have done the best you can with the limitations that have been given, and so in hopes that things will gradually increase with safety in mind. So thank you all. If there's no more updates for the park, we're going to transition over to the parent group liaisons reports. We'll start off with Familia Latinas Unidas. We have Carmen Cruz, who's here on behalf of Familia Latinas Unidas. I'm not sure if Claudia's here with you, but you have the floor, Carmen. Oh, your microphone is on mute. There you go.
All right. So can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Carmen. I'm a member of Familia Latinas Unidas. And this is the first time that I meet with you because I am the new member for the committee and leadership for the Familia Latinas Unidas. And that's the reason I'm here, because I was invited to come. And I'm listening carefully about what is happening here. And also I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say. This is English is not my first language, so it's a little bit hard for me to communicate, but I'm trying to do my best. That's one of the struggles that we have when we speak a second language and we are learning English. So we have to go through. It's not easy. It's hard. So I hope you understand that. So as part of this leadership in this group, the Familia Latinas Unidas, we've been working so hard to embrace the what is the mission of the group, which is leadership and education and culture. So we're trying to embrace those things, and we are trying to help our families, and we find ways how we can involve in the community and how the community can bring things to our group too, because we are families. So your job, what you do, is help us, like the library, like the park. So everything that the police and everything that is out there, so everything has to come to us because we are part of the community. So we need you. So I hope you continue supporting us. So what we're doing at this time, the group is we're preparing for the celebration of Cesar Chavez. And I'm very thankful to Cecilia, which she is helping us with collaboration from the library to build this program for the celebration of Cesar Chavez. We're going to have the celebration on March 26th, and everybody is invited. And it will start at 6:30. So I hope you can join us. We are working on that, and I hope everything will come together and we have a nice program for everybody, because we feel proud of the people who works in the fields. We recognize their job, and we recognize the leadership, that leader that is Cesar Chavez, who always was in the front working for the benefits of those people that work in the fields from the morning to the afternoon under the sun. That is really hard. And for us to bring us food, we are at home under a roof, so we have more. I feel like we are very, very blessed that we have something under our head. So if we think about them, they are working so hard to bring food to their families too. So that's why we are trying to celebrate and recognize those farmer workers, and as well the leader that is helping them when they travel, because they need somebody to speak for them. And Cesar Chavez, one of those leaders who spoke for them. So that's what we're doing right now. We are working in that, and so far that is where we are working. And members of the community also come to our meetings and bring us information. So like I say, you are very important. Your information is the information that we need. Our kids need that. Our families need that. So we want you to work as a team with us, with our families. And I think that's it for now. So I'm glad that I was invited here. I feel I kind of intimidate like that too, because it's my first time, and I see people that they are speaking English like I speak Spanish. So, but I'm trying to do my best to communicate with you, and I hope you understand what I'm telling you. So thank you very much.
Carmen, you did amazing. Thank you so
Great
much.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
you.
yeah. Look at
Well, please know, Carmen, that you are always invited to our meetings. You are part of our agenda. We really want to work together collaboratively, just like we do with the library, with the police department, with the parent groups. We really want to work collaboratively. So please know that you are always invited, and we look forward to the updates and all the great things that the parent groups are doing to support, promote, and like you said, I mean, it's a community effort, and it's not only for our families but for our children. So thank you so much for that update. And we're gonna now move over to Parent Connection Group.
Sorry. I say thank you to Gloria also, because I see Gloria, she is a member of our community, of our family members, and I guess she's been here for a while, for some time here, right? It's not the first time that Gloria is here.
Yes, welcome, Gloria. I wasn't able to greet you earlier. But thank you. Thank you again, Carmen.
Thank you.
And you're more than welcome to stay too if you'd like to hear Parent Connection Group. What I believe Adrina Seals is the new leadership also for Parent Connection Group. So welcome.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. All right. Welcome everybody to the PCG, the Parent Connection Group. I truly, truly believe in connecting, networking, and being a specialist at what I do. Just to give you a small rundown, I've worked for law firms for perhaps 4 years, large ones downtown Los Angeles. I went into property residential management. I have 4 kids. This is like 20-something years ago. I did that for over 11 years in the city of Hawthorne and also Long Beach. Worked for very large companies, mom and pop companies as well, remaining at one building. And I took over 8 other properties. So every time our buildings went up for sale, they retained me and kept me because they liked the way that their sales was going up. They liked the fact that all of a sudden late payers were paying on time. At that moment, I decided instead of going into law, I went into medicine. and I went and became a massage rehab therapist. And then I went into medical assisting, and then I went into spinal rehab. So I've worked at with different doctors through Cedars-Sinai, UCLA, and that is my base network. So what I bring to the table is not only a wealth of experience and a wealth of information, but also life experiences with 2 boys and 2 girls. So with that to say, we had the Greens Festival, which was this past Saturday. Can you guys see that? Isn't that beautiful? It's an apron that I wore with pride, knowing that I can walk over from Zooming straight into my kitchen and do preparations for greens. With that Green Festival, we also had a bag of evidence. We had the forensics. This was really creative because I never thought about it until Ebenetia on the steering committee, she made a statement, why don't we have a forensic specialist from Santa Monica PD? It was 3 different women to whom were Black, and then there was a gentleman who was also there, and he was showing and taking in questions at the same time, which was like really creative technology, right? We're able to see inside that lab. So in this, I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but it was so awesome, you guys. We had fingerprinting available to us. We not only seen how they actually do the fingerprints, you guys, so you know if you get pulled over, don't let them fingerprint you. I'm teasing. But we also had, along with that, we had a book read. Now, Janine is really big with the library. I am really huge with the Santa Monica Main Library. Why? Because when my kids were younger, from Roosevelt to Lincoln Middle School to Samo, once the school district was closing down as far as the school itself, they would walk down to the Boys and Girls Club. From the Boys and Girls Club, they went to the main library. At one point, I said, we need to get something closer to where we live, so we started going to the Virginia Park. At Virginia Park, I seen, just like with the main library, you guys have an awesome way of ordering books, not only for our events, you guys, but also really for the community. So your flexibility, your adaptability to listen to the parents, such as Janine that has little ones, right? This means so much because now we're able to see kids of different modes, of colors, of tones who are Black. So the theme this year was really about Black women in science. Isn't this beautiful, you guys? Isn't that awesome? So I wanted to share just a little bit of myself with you guys. My grandmother was born in the 1900s, and I think it was 6, 7 siblings. They lived on the other side of the railroad tracks off of Main Street. My great-great-grandparents was part of the ones that were being forced to move. A lot of people assumed that my family members were white, and when they seen that they were commingling with the Black kids, then our family member on the other side of Main Street was actually having to move out. So my mom, as a single parent, very high yellow, I'll bring her picture next time so you guys can see. A lot of people assumed that she was white. She was in the music industry, and she was singing until they figured out, why is this white woman with blonde hair, which she wasn't, she's Black, because I'm Black, right? Why is she performing all around the world with these Black musicians? So my mother got blackballed. But remember, she's a female, very resilient. So she then started to become a manager and also an advocate for different band players, and she put many of them inside Capitol Records and A&M Records. So my background through my mom then became, she's involved in fashion shows, and many of our relatives end up buying homes in Lower Ladera Heights, Upper Ladera Heights, the Baldwin Hills area. Willard Brown, House of Hair. He always did hair for the different different celebrities, such as Shaka Khan's sister and the Pointer Sisters. So we have a lot of in-depth built-in things. Even my dad, you guys Google the name, Automatopoeia Legend. We're part Blackfoot American Indian on my dad's side, and he works for Editions Limited, which is a very huge art gallery up in San Francisco in the Bay Area. So we have art in our background. So if you see, these are fake flowers, you guys, but aren't they beautiful? So I take them out and I rinse them, and then I put them right back up in here. And I'll show you guys my whole home. It's just an apartment that I'm renting. It's a townhome, but I become very creative. So this pandemic was a joy for me. I had the opportunity to enjoy waking up at whatever hour, and then I start working on my walls. I work on my kitchen. pandemic is not really bad. It helped me get to learn more of me. It helped me actually elongate and just really get into my trade of different artistic values and different ways that I can do art. And that means like haircutting my kids' hair a different way, right? So I just wanted to share a little bit with you about myself. But the main thing is, you guys, being a chair at PCG. This entire year, I already have mapped out every month. So this month of March, I'm focusing on medical madness. I'll be talking about from my medical profession, bringing in UCLA, and they're going to be discussing the COVID. They're going to be talking about physical and also mental good health, right? We're going to talk about my favorite, which is sports injuries, young and old. And then in April, you guys, this is where I need you guys from the library to just step right in. We're going to be talking about Wiz for Kids. So this is when we're going to give acknowledgement of the community of Santa Monica about the kids. Janine's sons, they've done wonderful community service. Zizi, her son, he's been running with POW, and they do different things. These kids are awesome kids. So I just want to be able to elevate these kids in the whole month of April, and any input and all input is very welcome. But I want a way that we can acknowledge through a certificate, through a trophy, through a medallion, through Santa Monica Daily Press. We want to get these kids first names, not last names, but we just want to get them out there and let them know that we not only love you, but these kids represent mom and dad. And on my end, I'm just all mom and dad, right? I celebrate Mothers and Dads Day all in one. So I just want to say thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate you inviting me to the table. Let's eat together. Let's eat well. Let's share the wealth. So thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrena. We definitely look forward to all these amazing events you guys will be having. Janine, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. Andrina, what has been happening for the whole year? So you said what happened this February, which was over this past weekend, but what about the whole year? Have you guys still been meeting, and have you done anything else? Or how have the families been? Oops, I can't hear you.
You're on mute, Adrena.
You hear me now?
There you go.
Okay. Carla has contributed so much in more ways than one, as far as from what I see, sustaining many of the families. The food bank and let's just get past the pride. Let me just say what is. Going to the food bank of the farmers market, going to the food bank over at SMC, going to the food bank, wherever Carla says go, when the families go, the rewards are elongating. They're beneficial. This is a need. This is a must. People can talk about a food desert, but you really don't understand what a food desert is until you actually have to stretch your money out. This is not even about having the privilege of going to Costco's or Whole Foods. This is whatever comes through the food bank. Now you make meals elongate and last through that. So based on Carla feeding, actually doing the emails on a regular basis, she has been such a strong backbone for the communities, I believe for Latino as well as Black, but for the group in general. As far as, again, I'm the newest chair as of January, but even as an overseer and watching different things that Erica was doing for the community, I know Erica also, she was picking up from different food banks and she was dropping it off to the different parents of PCG. This is really huge. We know that due to the kids not being in school, they become a little bit rambunctious, right? And they're all zoomed out. That's partially mental wearing on these kids. But what did Carla do? She came and she went ahead and emailed everybody different bubbles that was being designed for the kids at the park. And even for those parents that felt a little bit uncomfortable about that, it was okay. But at least she put it out there. Carla has been very actively putting out the information for the library and different things that kids can do for fun. So she has provided so much for PCG, and I kind of want to share it also with Flu. She's done a great job. This has helped, I believe, honestly sustain PCG and the other parent group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. I want to be mindful of time because time is definitely flying by. But thank you, Adrena, so much for that update. We
Thank
really,
you.
and again, both you and Carmen will be welcomed every month to give us updates on what the group's plans are and how our board can be of support. So thank you both.
Thank
So
you
now
so
we're going
much.
to move over to our discussion and action items. Our first item on the agenda is the public hearing, discussion, and possible action to inform development of the draft for the fiscal year 2021-2022 action plan, which proposes activities for use of federal community development block grant and home funding implementing for the 2020-2024 consolidated plan. I believe Mark Amaral may be here from the Housing and Human Services Administrator to share a little bit more about that.
That I am. And thank you, board members, for hosting me this evening, and thank you for that introduction. I am here tonight to discuss the city's fiscal year 2021-22 annual action plan. And I wanted to talk to the group, first of all, about what exactly that means and what the ask of the group is, like why this is relevant to this particular group. So every 5 years, the city prepares what we call a 5-year consolidated plan, which maps out to the Department of Housing and Urban Development how we intend to utilize our annual allocation of CDBG and home funding. CDBG dollars are community development block grant dollars. They are used for public services like homeless supportive services and services to people with disabilities, the Santa Monica Employment Center through Chrysalis. They support the city's administrative staff in administrating and overseeing the program. But most importantly, they support capital projects and build out of public infrastructure activities. And this is where the information is particularly pertinent to this board. As we look ahead to fiscal year 2021-22, we have a few projects outlined for utilization of the approximately $1.2 million in annual CDBG awards. I believe that each of you has a one sheet in your packet that shows the detail on what projects we have committed thus far. Out of the $1.2 million, we've committed just over $400,000, I think, at this point, with approximately $800,000 remaining. And part of the city's process for figuring out how to program these dollars is to approach groups like the Virginia Park Advisory Board, present to them a little bit about what we use the money for, and ask for your input and your own ideas about what projects the city might take on with this money, not just this year, but in future years. So specifically to next year, one of the projects that we're looking at using some of our CDBG money for is for at least partial funding of build out of the Virginia Avenue Park Community Kitchen. And I don't feel like I need to go into great detail about that project. I trust this group knows all about it. If not, please stop me and ask. But the idea here is to use a portion, at least a portion of federal funding to leverage perhaps larger and longer term commitments from private funders. And we're currently vetting the eligibility of something like the community kitchen for CDBG funding. It does appear to be eligible at first glance, but as you might imagine, there's a lot of strings that can come attached with receiving federal funding. We do want to make sure it's the right fit for the city, for the park, and for the surrounding community. So with that in mind, I mean, number one, I'd like to hear from members of the board and or any members of the public that may be attending. If you have any thoughts or ideas about the use of CDBG funding for the kitchen. And number two, and perhaps more interestingly, if you have any other ideas for entertaining now and or in the future, and I'll give you a few examples. We can use some of this money most likely to make improvements around the park. And I'll be working with Carla and our Public Works Department over the next few weeks to identify any improvements that may have been listed or scheduled pre-COVID to see if CDBG is a good funding fit for those sources. And so long as those projects go to benefit the surrounding communities and are benefiting members of a predominantly low to moderate income, and the Virginia Avenue Park does sit in a census tract that qualifies and around a number of tracts that qualify, then the project may well be eligible. And so with that quick overview, I just want to pause and see if there are any questions. And I hope my ask here tonight is clear. Number one, to make you all aware that this is something that the city is doing this year and does every year and hopes to bring the board into the fold on an ongoing basis. And number two, just to hear from you as far as input on the funding the kitchen goes and any other projects that you think might be a good fit for your community.
Go ahead, Janine.
Okay, I have two questions. One, you said there's strings attached. Could you talk about what some of those contingencies are? And the second question is, and this is something, I mean, Carla has talked to us about this, and I've talked to Teague Wainwright about this a lot, but is there any way that the community kitchen can also include possibly, and this is probably a lot more delicate, but any way to include some type of community garden that goes with the kitchen so that there could be lessons around from farm to table with the community kitchen?
Thank you for the question. I'll tackle the first one. Strings attached means often stringent requirements about current and future use of the kitchen. And so, for example, if we use $500,000 in federal funding to build out the kitchen, we are committing to using that kitchen and that space for the benefit of low-mod income individuals in perpetuity. And if we ever violated that commitment, then HUD could come back to the city and request that we return a portion of those funds back to the federal government. And for the foreseeable future, that may not be an issue, but time flies. Sometimes you want to do different things with different spaces. And so there would have to be an honest discussion about whether or not the city felt comfortable making that commitment, knowing that it would restrict future flexibility for that space, even though for the foreseeable future, I think we'd all want to see the kitchen grow. So that's one example. And the other example would just be reporting requirements. There are very strict reporting requirements for who benefits from use of the kitchen, being able to substantiate that the benefits are going predominantly to a low-mod income clientele. And that requires some work and some commitment on the part of city staff. And I contrast that to using something like an unrestricted grant from a private funder that may not come with all those strings attached, so to speak, and may be more flexible. So those are a few examples of the strings attached. And secondly, the community gardens idea, just the sort of ideas we're looking to the group for. Whether or not it would be possible, we would first talk to city staff, talk to Public Works, see if there was an area at the park where something like that might be a good fit. But I want the group to know, if you have ideas like that, these ideas will be represented in the action plan, even if we're not able to bring them to fruition this year. And this is part of what becomes an ongoing conversation where you start to daylight projects that the larger community desires to see, or improvements to the park that might benefit members of the park and the community. And we start to get some community input into what these projects are. Council sees them, and perhaps even if something can't be done within a year's time, it picks up some steam over time, and there's an increasing chance that it gets completed if it's viable.
Thank you.
Board members, other questions? No. One thing that did, I'm wondering, in the past, maybe 3 years ago or so, there was discussion about possibly trying to put a shade in the playground area for the kids. I'm not sure if that would be something that would be applicable given, the climate change and just how hot sometimes it has been and how dangerous it can be for kids. Would that be a possibility?
Yes, that would be a possibility. That has actually come up as that's one of the smaller projects I refer to in long-standing improvements that city and the community has wanted to see at the park, and that is on the list. And so part of my responsibility is to put this list together and figure out which projects are viable, which projects will align with the eligibility requirements that the federal government attaches to the funding. But that certainly at first blush sounds like something that we could certainly consider.
And so I'm wondering, Mark, if, as we ponder on your ask, could we potentially just email you maybe some potential ideas as we simmer with what you just asked us, as far as what ideas? Is there a potential deadline or timeline?
There is a timeline, but the good news is you have plenty of time. So the action plan this year is due to HUD on May 15th. I'll be going to council with the draft of the plan on April 27th to seek their approval. And between now and then, I'll be putting together a draft of the plan and actually posting the completed plan for public review. And when that plan is posted for public review, I'll make sure that word gets back to all members of this board, whether you're meeting or not. And individual of you may comment individually on the contents therein, and or in support of or requesting to add additional projects for consideration, or as a board if you happen to meet before then. So there will be additional opportunities, and we will make sure that you become aware of them.
Okay, great. And Mark, one other question.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
Mark, I want to know if it has been considered for this grant to support educational programs for like the needed communities. Is that something CDBG would cover?
Oh, so to a very limited extent. So unfortunately, that's one of the restrictions on CDBG dollars. That programs like you're describing fall under the public services definition, and we're restricted to using a maximum of 15% of our annual allocation for public services. And those public services are largely already spoken for, as a portion of the CDBG money goes to fund agencies and programs that are part of the Human Services Grants Program that the city has administered for many years. And so some of the programs that it goes to are St. Joseph Center's Santa Monica Retention Project to keep formerly homeless people housed, the Chrysalis Employment Center, the Disabilities Community Resource Center's Independent Living Service and Home Access Program, which provides minor home modifications for persons with disabilities, thus allowing them to stay in their units. And the Los Angeles Legal Aid Foundation, which provides legal services to low to moderate income families and households. So at the moment, those funds are spoken for. I wish, and I think a lot of my colleagues wish, we had greater discretion to use the funding for programming, because I think then we get a lot of ideas. But indeed, one of the restrictions is finding infrastructure projects that are suitable for use. So unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to consider that one in the coming year. But your input is always valid, and that idea, if I will take it as input, and it will land in the final plan.
Thank you.
Mark, this is Cecilia. I think what and maybe I'm this wrong, Sylvia, what you were trying to ask, but as we look at our libraries are not going to open, and perhaps we can use to remodel or to use them differently. Like, for example, the Ocean Park will be, with the grant that we went, it's going to be a self-serve library. It is all automated, and it's going to be all, the technology is going to come to open up to the public and not necessarily have staff in there. Would that be something that is more to the building and to look at the branches and they're a little different? Yes, that's exactly the sort of infrastructure project that would qualify more as a capital project. I think the only restriction there, and I'm guessing, and I may be wrong. Obviously, I'm very uninformed on the topic, that such a project might cost a significant amount of money. I mean, sometimes those projects go into the multiple millions of dollars. So I'm not quite sure what size of renovation you'd be thinking. But even something as the size of the community kitchen, which is a relatively small project, is going to run the city in the neighborhood of $600,000 or $700,000 before it's all said and done. So I just say that because it puts us in a strange spot of identifying projects that are appropriate. I mean, there's so many good ideas to do things that may cost $10 or $20 million, and things are very expensive these days. And we're limited in our ability to fulfill those. But the idea is no less useful, because it may turn into something, or there may be a portion of the project we could use federal funding for in the future. So if that is an idea, then I can take that for input as well, and include all these great ideas in the draft action plan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. And so I think what we'll do is just maybe if people do have ideas or suggestions, to just, if you can leave us your information, maybe with Carla, and that way we can just send you directly any input that we may have prior to April, and see kind of what can transpire as far as the focus of the park and enhancement of the park. I think it's an opportunity to just put it out there. So thank you, Mark, for joining us and for sharing this information. If there's no other questions, we're going to move on to 3B.
Thank you.
Thank you. for discussion and possible action to establish a policy platform of 3 to 5 priorities to support the needs of Virginia Avenue Park and park programs. So, Carla, if you can kind of share a little bit, I'll start it off, but I'm just wondering if there was anything specific from what we've heard board members today as far as how we can come. It's been a while since we've come together, but what are with COVID and we're still in it, and I'm not sure how things are going to look moving forward. But are there specific items or policies that we want to look towards focusing on moving forward to support not only the park as a whole, as a campus, but also specific park programs? And I'm not sure, Carla, if there was anything else you wanted to add on that piece.
Well, so just to echo what you're saying, Liz, you'll only be able to meet as a board once a quarter until all of restrictions are lifted. So your next meeting could be in June, I think is what you're going to talk about a little bit later. So between that time, though, there may be opportunities for you to advocate on behalf of the park, either at the council retreat, which is going to be on Saturday, March 13th, I think. You can participate in that. So with that, you might want to, and what you're asking me is like, what are some of these things to think about? Well, the budget was severe, so programmatically, trying to reinstate some of the funding that was lost. Our greatest, where we were most severely hit was staff, just like, the library was severely hit with staff. We certainly would benefit by at least having an increase in as needed hours so that we would be able to reopen the teen center. According to Eric's calculations, if we could increase the as needed hours by 18 hours a week, we'd be able to then at least be able to identify staff that could keep those, start to reopen the teen center. Another thing is that the events budget was cut by 75%. So we originally had $47,000 in the events budget. That is nearly not enough to do anything because of that. That's like the same amount that we had when we reopened the park in 2005, right? So, and rental costs, Sylvia can tell you, have gone up considerably. And so even then it wasn't, but it got cut down to $10,000. The idea is that we would just reduce the number of events we would do. But another thing is to at least try and reinstate that. That would be an, request. Could you help could you reinstate the events budget so that we would be able to, at least do a portion of what we could do. And those are like some of the reinstatements. It would be wonderful to be able to pull back more staff, but I am doubtful that permanent positions will be coming back very, very soon. I think you'll probably be better. We may be able to get additional resources, for like as needed hours or contractual services. So those are some of the things that, just trying to rebuild in that way are things that we need. And then in terms of physical and capital things that we have talked about that might be eligible for CDBG besides the kitchen, which I think is something that's going to have long-term benefits for the community for a very long time, are like repairing the splash pad. That's something, if you remember, that the splash pad's like down to one water gun, and which is very sad. So it's very old, so it needs to be upgraded. That was been on the capital improvement list. also the shade structure over the playgrounds. And then also looking at the courtyard by the teen center. That's another capital improvement that we've identified, which is that you know how those trees in there in the courtyard, those trees have not grown. I swear to God, they're like still like baby trees. They haven't ever grown to really to create shade, but they certainly do cause a problem for us when we're doing posada. You know, like so Eric and I were talking about how it would be like we should maybe have those removed. We also have a severe drainage problem over there in the courtyard. It floods all the time, and potentially by looking at some kind of regrading of that space. Now this is super expensive stuff, so I'm not sure that it would be, but I'm just telling you like these things. There's also been another semi-fix that Public Works had an idea about, which was putting in something called a French drain, which I don't really know what it is, but they said that might work to help with the drainage. So like maybe put in the French drain, and then you get rid of the trees so that we can have an open surface for us to be doing programming there. Those are some of the things. I know Eric is here, and Lupe, I don't know if Lupe is, if they wanted to chime in, but as community members, you also hear what people are saying and what are some of the things that are needed. So
Yeah, like just to speak on the French drain, it's basically a diverter. So they're trying to have the water go into the sewers, try to run it to the street instead of flooding into the courtyard. I know Carla had mentioned that. I know we want to get those trees removed because I think that's space that could be utilized more efficiently in regards to even events or even outdoor gatherings or even just for programmatically. There's a lot of different things that we can get that moving. The tree part is the easy part. I think we can get that resolved pretty quickly, but the French drain and the other stuff, that's just a quick fix. That's not a long-term solution.
those are, yeah.
I was going to say also, I mean, I think it would be great if we could get somebody from the city to look at that courtyard area for a potential redesign, because that space is not being utilized. It's a lot of space, and it's not, trees or no trees, it's not being used to maximum capacity. And, I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me talk about gardens, but that space could fit a small, garden also, on the side.
Mm-hmm.
An educational garden or something that, possibly PCG and FLU could split and work on together, raised bed gardens in that area. I don't know, but I just feel like it's just an open space. It's not, it's a lot of space, and we know that's premium in Santa Monica, and it's not being used to its maximum capacity. And maybe someone can look at it from the city for a redesign, or help us develop some ideas, or do a roundtable with with the park, with us, and maybe with PCG and FLU to ask about wants and needs and see what's possible. And we can then present that to, and I can't get the acronyms correct with Mark, but presenting it to him to see if maybe they could flip the bill for anything structurally needed. For example, lights. When we do have events, it's just so dark over there, and we're all trying to hang things and trying to figure it out. So anyway.
No, thank you, Janine. That's really some good feedback. Christina, Barbie, Gloria, any comments? Gloria? Your microphone is off.
Voy a hablar en español.
Está bien.
Estaba escuchando cerca de eso, es lo que es el patio que está enfrente del Teen Center, ¿verdad?
Yes.
Y
He was referencing the patio from the
yo
teen
creo que
center.
también ese patio también quedaría bien una sombra ahí, porque en el verano los niños tienen su lunch allí, juegan y los niños más grandes, pues. Y yo pienso que esa también sería una buena manera de, aparte de corregir el problema de que se inunda, pero también una buena sombra que puede servir para los niños cuando tienen su reunión afuera, su lonche, o juegan ahí también.
So Gloria is suggesting a possible shade area in the courtyard area, because sometimes the kids are playing or are out there. And so although there's some drainage issues, also just considering, you know, during the hot weather and when they're out there, making use of that space, that a shade would be helpful. ¿Algo más que quería agregar, señora Gloria?
No, eso es todo.
Okay, no, muy bien, muchas gracias. Great, so
I just wanted to remind Carla, we have that screen, Carla, that we haven't been able to reuse anymore for the movie nights. I mean, Carla's been wanting to do something with that courtyard for a long time, but they always put it at the bottom of the list, I think.
Yeah, that screen, we showed a movie there very, very early on, if you remember, when the park opened. It's it's hanging on the side of the teen center.
yeah, but I think even going back to what Janine sharing, it's like figuring out a redesign of how do we make it multi-purposeful, because it's such a large area, and it's also contained, you know, for safety. So I think it could definitely, I don't know if that could be part of the CDBG funds as far as getting assessment or someone to kind of sort of imagine some of the input that both parent groups and Janine is sharing, with also making just multi-purpose use space that we have. So, but thank you all for your feedback. I'm wondering, I guess if we have identified at least 3 to 5 items, I can entertain a motion to establish, I guess, those policy or areas of concern or interest that we'd want to advocate for when opportunities present themselves, whether it's city council meeting during the budget or the Parks and Recreation meeting.
I just wanted to say something.
So do we have no motion? So if we have, if we don't have an established 3 to 5 priorities, Carla, what do we do if we are not?
Well, I think you can establish the ad hoc committee to, maybe it's more general, like you don't necessarily have to have a motion about it, but it's just that they will look at park improvements, park improvements, program enhancement or restoration.
Sorry, I'm having audio problem.
Do you want to turn off your phone?
I can't.
Oh.
There's a problem with the audio, but just to confirm,
we hear you right now.
3B or 3C?
It looks like we're going to move to maybe 3C. Might make it a little easier if we establish
concluding, just to make sure, since this is our minutes, we're concluding discussion on 3B and moving to 3C?
Yes, thank you. Which would then be a discussion and possible action to establish an ad hoc committee of maximum of 3 members, tasked with monitoring, city council, parks and recreation agendas, along with some of what Carla just suggested in terms of looking into park improvement, park enhancement, park needs, etc. And so, yeah, that's where we're at right now at 3C.
Yeah, so with that, if you could, it's up to you, but this is what some of the other boards and commissions are doing, is setting up this ad hoc committee that then you as a board will vote and say, we'll have a motion that they they can go and send a letter on the behalf of the board. Or you can establish right now and say like, hey, we want to, but I don't think you're there yet. I think that there's more conversation. It sounds like to me, to say, hey, these are our priorities. So this ad hoc committee could sit down and try and prioritize the list, the laundry list that we just made, and then send that first to Mark and then to the Rec and Parks Commission.
Carla, I have a question. Can it be something more general, like with the remodel of the kitchen? Can they add money to? Can they do something and give money to remodel the rest of the Thelma Terry building? Since the kitchen is going to be art, like, can they do something with the rest of the old building? And then maybe Sylvia and Cecilia have some ideas with I don't know, maybe Sylvia. Did you want to share?
I was just thinking. Yes. Sorry. Sylvia and I have been, discussing that the community, has been asking for a long time, kind of like a museum type of, cultural center. What about an area where, even the teen center, remodeling your teen center to actually be able to house and record oral stories, but also like how you display it, and people they wanted to bring and display their own, pictures and artifacts, but giving it like a space. Sylvia, do you want to tell a little bit about your idea?
Well, I was thinking about a Pico community history room where so many people have shown or brought up pictures, historical pictures from their families, how Pico families have been raised there for so many years, and so many people have their stories to tell. I was looking at some of the stories for the program that the city did, and I saw Erica there telling her story and Shirley telling her story, and where the community can have a place to keep recording and to archive all those stories and pictures, anything. So it would be like at the main library, we have a Santa Monica history room, and this could be in a smaller scale for the Pico community, where everything, the history of PCG, all the events will be archived there, as well as anything that Flu is working on could be archived there, and it becomes history for the community. So that's something I was just thinking about, because it's been kind of like a long project that I hear people wanting to do.
Archiving oral stories or anything digital, it's very expensive. The technology for that itself, the library, for example, we cannot archive many things because that takes a lot of space and it's very expensive to maintain. But perhaps looking at your building or how people can actually record their own stories and take them home with them, but also how do you highlight certain things in that room.
And we did, Carla, remember we had the wall, and we had a couple walls here that had a lot of historical pictures that we took down when they repainted the park center. And we keep talking about using these walls for, some kind of photo, something, I don't know what, but that we can maybe combine some of those ideas with putting something on the walls here that are bare in the park center.
That's what I was going to mention. I was thinking like the sitting area when you come in to the administration office, maybe there could be a kiosk. And then there's a lot of walls that are really tall too that could be utilized to display some of that, display some of the history. In addition, that one window when you're facing the door to the left that's near the chairs, maybe even some type of screen that's placed on the inside could, like a digital board or something, could be placed there too. However, I also know that would also require additional staffing to make, or someone to make sure it's always updated. If it's something's broken, it's got to be reported. And as you were saying, Cecilia, you know, archiving this information, reaching out to people, making sure that, and maybe we could partner with, the archive, the city's archive team, but that if we're already short staffed, it's just like, it's this double-edged sword, I love the idea. I think it's great. I know the 18th Street Art Center is already doing stuff, but it would be great to have something here on our campus to remind us the whole history of the park.
And Carla, don't forget the electronic marquee that you wanted in the corner instead of the banners.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get too, I think these are really good ideas. And I think that, Liz, that, that these are just the beginning of a lot of things that we can be talking about. If there isn't interest in setting up an ad hoc, you can also just individually submit your things like you have been able to do during COVID. So like, let's say that the board members that are here are not willing, or you just don't have the bandwidth to form an ad hoc, which totally understand. So, but you can do your own, you can also write your letters or advocate and submit your ideas as independent PIPA's residents and list that you are a board member, but it's just not going to be like an official thing from the board. That's totally fine and has equivalent value,
So that's a question for the board members: is do we want to have an ad hoc, or do we the other option, as Carla just shared, is because we've done that in the past where, because during COVID there was stuff going on city council, and we all just wrote our individual letters. So if you all can just share with me, are you open to, and if you are, then, we can get up to 3 members, but if not, we'll just, move forward individually. I think, Barbie, you wanted to share some.
Yeah, I just had a question about, one, what's the timeline that we're looking at for this, assuming that our next meeting isn't until June? And then the second thing is, since we don't have all of our board members who are here tonight, sort of how that would work with Brown Act and sort of all of those things, if we have enough information.
Well, you have a quorum. So with a quorum, you can make decisions. So that's for you. And then in terms of deadlines, you have the March 13th council retreat, where there'll be opportunity for input, right? Then you have April 27th, which is when the CDBG presentation is going to council, right? And then the budget will be sometime in May. The budget here, the budget meetings. The budget adoption won't be until the end of June. It'll be after your next meeting if you choose to meet in June. Liz, I think Eric had his hand up.
Yeah, quick question, Carla. I know Rec and Parks just met in February. When is their next quarterly meeting? Are they meeting monthly or are they meeting quarterly? Because that would probably give you your best deadline of when you want to submit something to Rec and Parks, because that would probably be the first step in my opinion. So once you have that date for the next meeting, then that would be probably your next step in submitting your individual letters or your board letter. Just my two cents.
July, correct?
Pardon me?
We don't meet until July, right?
To June. Well,
June.
that's one of our discussion items, but we're looking at June.
The Rec and Parks has been meeting monthly.
Okay, so if they have a March meeting, you can give yourself a deadline of when their next meeting is of something you want to submit to, or do you want to submit in April? So that's probably just my 2 cents as far as your timeline of what you want to get it to. Obviously, you want to get it to them before budget time in June. So kind of use that as your rule of thumb, just dealing with, because I came from the field sports advisory background, but kind of piggyback as that your timeline when you do that, if you want to do it individually or as a group. So just sharing my 2 cents on that.
As a group, we're not allowed, whatever we need to do, it has to be done today, correct, Carla? Because we're not allowed to.
No, you can assign an ad hoc committee to do it. That's what you can do that, and they can, based on the conversation here, then go and put something together.
Right.
As long as you all bless it, and
Correct.
not that you bless it ahead of time, saying like, yes, we will trust you to identify this, and then send the letter to RPC. Eric, are you able to Google and see, or check to see when would the next RPC meeting be?
I believe they meet the third, was it Thursday of the month? Or let me see here.
Mhm.
They met on the 18th of February, so I would assume their next.
The March 18th then.
March 18th then, correct. Then after that, your next opportunity is April 15th.
So going back
that's
to
for that. But you can still also do input at the council meeting as an independent body,
Right.
and at the council retreat, and the CDBG doesn't need to go through RPC.
Correct.
Okay.
So just going back to Liz's question of those of us who are here, and there's 5 of us here now, are there 3 or 4 to have the bandwidth? Are there 3 of us here with the bandwidth who could join an ad hoc committee and come up with these and priorities and write letters and support and attend the meetings? Yeah.
It could also it could also be that you don't need to have a meeting. You could just, with what Eric was saying, you could go and do public comment or I can see if I can get you on the agenda for RPC meeting.
Correct.
I unfortunately just can't. I don't have a lot of. I've been.
Same here, Jenny. I feel like working from home and parenting from home, it's difficult to find that extra time. But I do think perhaps we could do a motion to encourage us to send individual letters in support with some of the things that were brought up during this meeting. I feel like I probably have bandwidth to write a letter that could then go to each of these different entities that are considering these motions, but I'm not sure if I have the bandwidth to also attend separate additional meetings.
I'm with you too. I sit on another board and, some other things. And for the past year, I've been digging pretty deep. So, offline for the park. So I'm a little, I definitely can write the individual letters. I am encouraging some of our other members, I think it would be nice to have an ad hoc committee. But again, if no one can do that, then hopefully, we all can write a letter.
I think that sounds reasonable, and I feel like we have enough interest here that at least we'll have a couple of letters coming from individual advisory board members. And we can also table it, not knowing how long the pandemic and these sort of quarterly meeting restrictions will keep going. Perhaps we discuss this again in 3 months about creating this ad hoc committee. I wish I had.
Hopefully you'll be back on having meetings.
I mean, I know, right? Hypothetically, the lawyer in me, though, is kind of like, just in case, at least until we get until we have vaccines for children, I'm hesitant about setting like a date on the calendar when we're all back to normal. So that could take us a while. But perhaps we table this particular motion to create a separate ad hoc committee to our next meeting in June to readdress, and hopefully we'll have a full board then. But in the meantime, I'm open to entertaining a motion to encourage the individual advisory board members to send letters of support. And I don't think we'll be in violation of the Brown Act if we individually, have similar letters, one-on-one, but we can't do the hub and spoke method, which means we can't talk with 3 people separately with the same information or something like that. But it seems to me that like the things, since these are our minutes, my understanding of the sort of 6 big topics were increase the number of hours is needed for the teen center, increase the events budget to at least go back pre-pandemic, improve the splash pad, funds for the community kitchen, funds for shading, and funds for drainage. That's kind of like general language, but those were like the 6 major things that I heard. I know additionally there are library things as well, so I don't know how we incorporate that, but does anyone else have, if we were to create a motion that says encourage board members to write letters addressing these 6 or more, I just want to make sure we have the similar understanding of what those 6 or more are.
You don't have to include the ideas of the library. We were just trying to say like what community members have said about community rooms and museums, but that's just, you know what I mean, in the past, but it doesn't need to be included or be in a priority. Or
We could add a 7th one that just as like a community art museum. We could say, what is it? Mixed media art, or what would be the appropriate term so that it includes both oral as well as visual and other forms. Visual and oral art? Does that sound weird? It just sounds weird, right, Janine?
For historical memorabilia, I mean, that sounds like part of it too. The other thing, though, I know Sylvia and Cecilia, you know, that the community always needs assistance with, especially now, is the wonderful Learn program, and when that, you know, if that's going to be able to be reinstated.
So, Carla, I think that was the question we were asking. I think what Sylvia was trying to get at with Mark, it was that, is that if you could, you know, relook at your homework help, you know, area, like, you know, and we were just thinking, you know, if it needs more space or another, like, you know, what you would need in order to make it more welcoming for the kids, or, you know what I mean? But also, again, with any homework help or any learned things, you need staff time. And that's the part that I think that is hard, because the city will not pay for extra staff to implement the homework help, you know, or or everything that is needed. And that, but I think it was.
Sorry, go ahead, Cecilia.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, do you want us to add line for like improved funding for library staff at Pico branch? Or just do we need to target?
I don't think that's a problem. I think you can put that in.
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not that it gets funded, right? It's the same thing. Like, we don't know. Like, I gave you very specific things that we've identified, but the reality, will it actually come through? I mean, you guys are voicing what has been presented as, you know, as things that the community needs and wants. So whether or not the city is going to be in a position to actually fulfill them, that's separate from this.
Yes, I think that we you know, one of the reasons, I mean, let's be honest, that the library got cut, you know, a lot of our staff left, and so that's, for that reason, we're not going to be able to open in any near future Fairview, and Montana is only open 2 days a week, and we're not going to be able to have all the hours that we used to, because we just don't have enough people to cover those. So, but even with any other programming or anything like that, you do need some expertise with your staff to be able to implement those. So any support with as needed staff, like, you know, Carla was saying, that's how we probably going to be able to, you know, supplement some of those things where, you know, in order for a librarian to do a program like I do, and we have to help curbside, for example, now we were able to bring a library page, can actually do the curbside for us, and it frees the librarian to actually do the programming, or it frees the librarian to do the presentation. because what we do right now is that all of us check out books and shelve the books if we need to. And so we just don't have enough, to do it all. And I think that any support with, as needed, it's always, the plus.
So that can be added maybe as number 7 is increased funding for library staff or as needed staff, because they can be so instrumental with, like you said, with so many different ways in terms of programming, whatever that may look like in the future.
Yeah.
Correct. Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, with the layoff, most of my youth services librarians are gone. We only have 2. And that's why Sylvia has to go and do the youth services, because I don't have children librarians right now. And so, in order to bring children librarian, it's going to take a long time, and I don't think that we're going to be able to. And so
that's critical right now with the pandemic and what it's doing psychologically to kids to be at home and just, just isolating. I think it's important to kind of really think about what, how we can, it may not come to fruition, but I think the idea that we're advocating for families and for the well-being of children and their development is really imperative. I want to be mindful of time. So, Barbie, you mentioned, do we need a motion from a board member to at least identify or be consistent with the 7 items, and then we could all independently write the letter? Or
I'd like to do that. I'd like to entertain a motion, and I'll say it again just out loud so it's on this recording. And I'm going to add an 8th item, so I'll just say them again. So I'd like to make a motion that this board encourages its board members to write letters in support of the following 8 items to City Council and Recs and Parks Commission as it relates to funding in the coming months and year. So the first item would be to increase as needed the hours in the teen center. The second would be to increase the events budget back to pre-pandemic levels. The third is to improve capital improvements to the splash pad. Fourth is funding for the community kitchen. Fifth would be capital improvements for shade. The sixth would be capital improvement for drainage. The 7th would be improved staffing as needed for the Pico Library branch and youth programs. And then the 8th would be funding for a community youth arts center. So I think by having that community youth arts center, whether it's housed at the teen center or not, whether or not it's oral, historical, whatever, it's included, because it was something that a lot of people brought up tonight.
I second it.
okay, so Barbie, you put in the motion. Janine seconds it. Any discussion? No. Okay, so I'm going to do roll call. Where's my list? So Barbie Alpowitz.
Yes.
Janine Jackson.
Yes.
Gloria Garcia.
Yes.
Cristina Delgadillo.
Yes.
And Liz Cruz. Yes. So the motion passes to write letters of support either to City Council and or Parks and Recreation on the 8 items you shared. All right, thank you, Barbie. And now moving on to the following item is 3E, which is discussion and possible action item to designate an ad hoc committee of a maximum of 3 members to plan a virtual college tour for park families. So in the past, as you all know, we've done our annual family college trip. And of course, with COVID, everything's now done virtually. And I believe, Janine, you had mentioned that there's been opportunity where students have been able to see multiple colleges outside of California because it is virtual. And so the thought was perhaps having an ad hoc committee to maybe plan or line up a weekend or during spring break, whatever the ad hoc committee decides, where you can see multiple colleges and outside of California, in addition to California, where it's not just exclusive to one, but more than one. So that was pretty much the idea there. Thoughts or comments? Anyone? Is there interest in wanting to have board members participate and put something together in the near future? Again, the timeline, it's pretty open, but was wondering if there's interest in having this be reintegrated into our plans. Janine?
I'll do it. I mean, I'll with a team of, other 2 people, not solo.
Who else would like to join Janine?
I don't mean to volunteer Eric, but this is something that Eric would work on with whoever from the board.
Yes,
to
you
make
need
it
to
happen.
volunteer me. Stop it, Carla. Okay.
Gloria, would you like to join me? Would you like to join me in with a college tour?
Okay.
We got it on a recording now, so you said yes.
All right.
Christina, would you like to join in? Since you were part of our committee before.
I'm just not really quite sure right now with me barely getting back. I'm not really quite sure with my time.
Well, we have Janine and Gloria for now, and Eric as part of the city rep. And so again, it's pretty flexible in terms of what we're looking at as far as scheduling it and seeing how we can put this together versus having what we did pre-COVID, which was one college site. So and then I'm sure the board will support as we have in the past with the college planning. It's obviously going to look a little different, but in terms of just ensuring that families get an opportunity to familiarize themselves with colleges and universities within and outside of California.
Carla, I know you've said this a couple of times and it's still not registering with me, but ad hoc committees can meet a couple of times outside of, I'm talking about this new code, this pandemic restriction. Gloria and I can meet in bring ideas. Well, actually, we wouldn't bring an idea up until the next meeting, correct?
Yeah, or you could just work on it with Eric, and you can have virtual. Did you want to meet in person? I mean, if you wanted to, I guess you could meet outside. But
no, I'm just talking about just logistically in terms of meeting, and then we would present something to the board when we meet again, correct?
I think what you could do is, as an ad hoc committee that's doing this, you could go figure it out and then just report back on what you guys decided to do at the June meeting.
Okay.
Well, I think too, like whatever you discuss internally would then be presented to the board as a motion to separately vote on, right? So it's like in the meeting you think we should do such and such, and then you present that as what you would like the board to, either if we vote on it for funding or whatever else action we would need.
Implement it. We would just create the idea and then
present to the board for the board to approve.
Right.
I think that allows you to, like, the Brown Act stuff we're okay with, and then
because it's just the 2 of us.
But you can't talk to more than 3 people total who are board members about it.
Right. And I was just asking that because I'm just used to us meeting every month. So I wasn't sure how this was working. Okay.
And so we don't need a motion or anything for this right now, right? Since I have identified.
Are we creating a separate? I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm an attorney, but I'm not an expert on the Brown Act. But my understanding is that, like, if we're charging them to do something on behalf of the board, then we might need to create, unless we already have this college tour ad hoc. I don't remember if we do or not from our last retreat. I feel like we might have, or it might have been.
We did have it
as a separate ad hoc, or was it
early
under another one? Was it like
community? I think we did have this ad hoc committee before.
Just the college tour.
Gloria, I don't know if Christina was in it, but they were already in the plans and COVID hit, and so it didn't come to fruition. So we did have it as a part of, I don't know if it was necessarily called a college ad hoc, but there was an ad hoc committee specifically designed pre-COVID.
Yeah, I thought so too. I wasn't sure. So I feel like, I think then we're probably okay with just reaffirming.
Falls right in
that.
line with it, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I just
'cause
don't
it was
remember off
part
the
of
top of
our
my head the
plans.
name of the committee.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we're ending discussion 3D then, and moving, and we'll get an update at the next meeting in June. And so that leads me actually to discuss our next quarterly meeting, if June 7th works for everyone, which is the first Monday of June. And if not, we would need a motion, correct, to change the meeting date if that's not going to work. So does that work for everyone? Yes. Gloria, ¿trabaja para usted el 7 de junio? La próxima junta.
Sí, está bien.
Sí? Okay.
Sí.
So I no need for a motion then. So it looks like we have completed our agenda for today. So I will be adjourning the meeting at 8:56 p.m. If we can stop recording.